I'm here at IATEFL in Brighton, and I'm lucky enough to run into Laura Wilkes, who is someone I've been looking to run into for quite some time. Laura Wilkes is a well-known podcaster within TESOL, and I wanted to talk to her for the Fresh Chat series. For each of our units, we're going to be talking to one or two industry experts, and for Unit 18 in our TESOL course, it's about continuous professional development. Now, this is something that Laura knows a lot about, much more than I. So we're going to have a little chat and then find out more. So, Laura, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
I think you did a terrific job. Thanks so much for inviting me. My name's Laura. I love talking about podcasts and media in terms of helping teachers and teachers in business, so educators in business, create media, use it creatively to put their message out there. So I'm excited to talk about this today.
Cool. So one thing I talk about on the course is a lot of teachers, they feel kind of stuck in their jobs. They're in the classroom, but they want to kind of further themselves more. They want to develop themselves professionally, add a few more kind of strings to their bow, but they don't really know how. So if they wanted to move over into like a digital realm and get more well-known outside of their school, outside their classroom, what kind of things can they do?
Well, there's quite a few options. We're quite lucky, aren't we, these days? And I think for the majority of us, we have access to a computer in our pocket, our mobile phone, our smart device, or have some access to that kind of digital creative tool. So I think if we think about teachers who have access to that, we do have a lot of variety, such as short videos, going on the internet to create vlogs even, or podcasts, which is what I create. In terms of like teachers' development, I think teachers are often very good at consuming things and very good at looking for opportunities to consume like podcasts or videos or YouTube channels and those sort of things. But I think this idea that you're raising here is like them as creators, and there's so much value in creating your own content and showing your thinking process and being vulnerable to sharing that with your audience in a way to build your portfolio. I think there's a hesitation maybe, not just with teachers and educators, but all of us, in that we feel that we have to show up perfectly in our blogs, our podcasts or live streams. We need to be the experts and everything, but that's not the case. In fact, if you are open to sharing, you're open to learning, which teachers are experts in learning. And to show that thought process and hesitations and things that you're working through as part of your content, that's a really powerful, authentic bond that you can build with your target audience.
Something that makes you human, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right, if you look on YouTube, you often get these like perfectly made, perfectly edited YouTube videos. It's quite intimidating for someone who wants to dip their toes in and make like a YouTube channel, to feel that has to be perfect in order to get people to follow them or to be interested or not swipe off. And it's not necessarily that way, right?
Exactly. There is quite a big gap, isn't there, between where we're starting and then if we compare ourselves to the big YouTubers like Mr. Beast and stuff like that, they have huge budgets to work with, as do a lot of the production companies that are on social media channels as well. But comparison can be the worst thing, can't it? It can be the thing that causes us to freeze. And if we just pull back and focus on, well, what is it that I want to create? Who am I creating it for? And when we start to think about the individual, our ideal audience, which in the case of the teachers, it could be students that they're wanting to help. I worked with I interviewed a teacher recently on the podcast who creates the content for Steer to Success on TikTok. And her motivation for creating those short videos was for her students during exam time. She noticed they were struggling in preparing for exams. So she got really intentional in creating content that reviewed key concepts about the exams, gave them pep talks in preparing for the exams, and gave them key tips and things. And it grew from there because she had a very clear idea of who she was talking to and didn't worry about the rest. So in that case, she didn't need to start with the latest equipment. She just started with, I can record something that's going to be helpful, and this could be a great way to reach students who are studying at home during that. You know what exam season's like, and the students are usually at home doing that in-depth revision. And I think that's a really good example to follow, is not to get distracted by the big companies and just really focus on who is it that you want to help. And really lean into that and imagining that one person that you want to serve sat across the table from you. How would you talk to them about what you want to do?
And I think it helps your own teaching, because it allows you to reflect on how you're presenting language and what the kind of target language that you've been doing. you make videos about it, and then all of a sudden you're looking at yourself as a teacher, but also in order to make a better video, I guess, you're looking at other ways and other kind of information that's out there, latest research, just different ideas, and you can blend that into your own teaching to become a better classroom teacher yourself through making videos, through making blogs, podcasts, writing articles, and stuff like that.
100%. Once you kind of feel a bit more comfortable, and speaking for myself here, in using media, you find connections to your practice, whether it's practices, in my case, as a business owner, or practices within the classroom. I do workshops as well and trainings and stuff. You find ways to bring that in to make a bigger impact. I mean, people can't remember things within an hour classroom or in that hour contact time. So isn't it wonderful when we can start to dabble in using these media tools that we have available to create, I'm going to do a little recap video that I'm going to send to students at the end of the week to remind them what we did.
Yeah.
You can start to really create materials that really support the learning process, and you can do so because you've already experimented a bit with it and you have the confidence to do so.
Yeah.
And when your students, like for your audience, for the teachers working with students, when your students want to create something as well, you can be a facilitator of that and know how to kind of set it up. So there's lots of things to gain from this.
Absolutely.
100%.
There's a lot of roadblocks to stop teachers from giving it a go, and we'll talk about that shortly. But just quickly, why is it important, do you think, these days to build up yourself a digital profile online? What kind of benefits can you get personally from that?
Well, I think if teachers are sharing content online on digital platforms such as like a social media platform, or even within the school's intranet space, it's a way of kind of pushing your message out there and showing where you want to go. For me personally, when I was working in employment, my podcast, TESOL Pop, spoke for me as my brand before I walked into rooms. It made it easier to kind of engage in conversations about where I wanted to go, and also when I applied for jobs that were outside of the locality of where I was based and where my network was, people already had some familiarity, or they had a way to kind of get familiar with me and build that relationship with me before we went through the interview process, which takes a lot of pressure off everybody, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess it gives you that authority. When you come in, they're like, this is Laura. We know her from TESOL Pop.
Yeah.
We know her work.
Exactly.
They trust you already that you're going to be able to do a good job, so it just gives you that higher profile.
Exactly. We talk about that know, like, trust process in sales and in business. And it's the same for when you're kind of selling yourself as an employee applying for jobs. Like, how can you be kind of more in control, but more of the leader of that conversation, rather than waiting or being dependent on other people asking the questions and stuff. How wonderful it is that you can say, hey, I'm applying for this. Here's a few samples of my vlogs or blogs that I've created. Have a look.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much easier then for people to be like, I can see how this person fits in, and I can even imagine how these skills could help grow a department. And we can work more creatively.
I haven't thought about that. Yeah. And then you could send the link with your submission. They can, behind the scenes, they can be checking it and looking at your profile and go, she's the top candidate for this job.
Exactly.
Yeah. What kind of bottlenecks or what scares teachers from getting started? Because a lot of people will be watching this and go, I want to do that, but I don't know how. I'm scared. So, what do I do?
I guess there's like three common things. I'm sure you hear these too. Like, folk usually say, it's time. That's usually a bit of a bottleneck. The tech, or I guess, the idea is the know-how. Yeah, exactly. Which one do you want me to tackle first?
So I guess tech. I guess we could talk about tech. Like, a lot of people think you need the latest equipment or whatever. They don't have that, but maybe that's not true.
No, it certainly isn't. And I encourage people to use what they already have access to, whether that means like borrowing things or loaning things. If you go to like digital shops or even camera shops, there's even sometimes opportunities to hire things. So like for the setup we have today, we've actually hired some of the cameras that we're recording today with, for example. So there's lots of opportunities, but I encourage people to start with what they know and what they have access to. Because if you're just testing something, you're probably committing to a pilot series. And pilot series, like 6 is usually a good number to work with. So you commit to the pilot series. You don't want to be investing in the highest equipment, spending your money and time on figuring out how to use that equipment when you could just start with your mobile phone. In a quiet room that gives good acoustics. That's probably like I know, a small corner of a room with a few cushions and sofas around, that's good enough. Like, start with that.
So, right?
Yeah, and if that's where you're starting, then fantastic. But don't use that kind of, I need to have the latest professional studio to start. I think that's going to be the biggest roadblock. That stops people from even trying, which is so sad.
So once you say to yourself, I don't need all of this equipment, I can just use my phone, and then just find a nice quiet place in my house, maybe set up a few pillows or whatever behind, and just talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And try it out. And if you don't have access to a great phone or something like that, ask people. See if you make it in a collaboration that you do with other people and get other folk involved, because that can take the pressure off as well.
Yeah. How about time? Because teachers are very busy. They're teaching. They're planning. Does it take a long time to kind of set this kind of stuff up?
It can, if we kind of think big picture of like where we want to be in 5 years' time. That could be a really big, intimidating kind of step to even visualize. But again, going back to that idea of like starting small, thinking about doing a pilot series, that way we can really contain the time and we can think about what an MVP would look like, a minimal viable product. And that could be 1 minute videos. Okay, I'm going to commit to 1 minute videos. It will take me about half an hour to script a few key points. It's going to be about one thing, because of 1 minute. I mean, what can you talk about in 1 minute? Just one thing. And it's going to be a piece to camera. So it's just one frame, one thing in under a minute. Yep, I can commit to doing 6 of those. And that will take, maybe 3 hours to plan those 6 and record them.
Right.
That's fine. Start there.
And I think the first one is the most difficult, right? Because you don't know really what to say. You plan what to say, but you don't know what to do, how to stand. You're not used to doing this. But as you get more experience, it just becomes natural, maybe.
It does. I always say that your next recording is going to be your best one. Often I hear, your last recording is your worst one, which I don't think is really very helpful, because it's distracting from where we want to go. It's looking backwards in not a very helpful way. It's dragging us back rather than pulling us forward. So I encourage folk to think about, this is a stepping stone to my next one, which is going to be even better. And the next one after that's going to be even better. And you have to allow yourself to be space to record and be creative and figure things out. And if you don't give yourself that space, which teachers do with their learners, it's so ironic. Teachers are really good at letting learners figure things out and helping them go through the messiness that is learning. If you don't allow yourself to kind of be in that experimental space of trying things out, like, that shot, I'll try that shot, I'll try doing a walking video today, that sort of thing. You won't get to, really realize where you want to be and finding your voice and finding really what you want to create that is unique about you as a creator, as a digital creator, that is.
Yeah. I guess the final thing is a lot of teachers will be quite reluctant at first to put themselves out there on the internet. They're on Facebook, all their friends might be watching. They kind of feel a bit cringy maybe about it, right? So it's a normal human reaction. So what kind of advice would you give about that?
Yeah, it certainly feel intimidating if your content is living in a public sphere where it is open to the public. It doesn't have to be in that space. You may find there's other spaces where you want to kind of contain it, and that's absolutely fine. But if we go back to that idea of like, who are you creating content for? Because you're not creating content for everyone. You're not for everyone, and nor should you have to be. If you're creating content specifically for your students, you know your students best. Just imagine talking to them. And anybody else, it's really not for them. Sorry, like if they want to watch it and interact with it, great, and support you, that's great, but it's not for them, it's for your students. So I think if we think about our target audience, and as teachers, we're standing in front of our students all the time, we know them, we build those relationships. If you try and visualize them as you're creating the content rather than, looking at yourself on the screen, which can be really uncomfortable. But if you think about your student sat behind the screen and how they're going to feel and be positively impacted as a result of your content, I find personally that helps a huge amount.
Yes.
And anything else doesn't really matter, because it's all about the student, isn't it?
It's basically messages, just give it a go.
Yeah.
Get your phone, think about maybe a short series of 6 things that you could do, but importantly, start on the first one and just give it a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really hope this is say, just do that, just start really small, 1 minute, like kind of creative, bite-sized pieces, and that's a brilliant place to start. And who knows where that's going to lead?
Yeah, can lead a lot, right? Where can people find you?
So, folk, if you're wanting to listen to my podcast, which is about TESOL, they can go to TESOL Pop and check out all the episodes and things that are going on there. If they're interested in learning podcasting and media, then they can go to my business website, Communicating for Impact, to learn more, or find me on socials. I'm on different platforms here and there where people can find out more.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining me.
It's been great chatting.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And I'll speak to you later on in the week.
Lovely. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks.